Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Lion's End podcast. I'm your host, Dan Stone, and today we have One Piece chapter 1108 titled Attention World. Now, this week we don't have any cover story or uh, any cover art request. Instead, um, Oda gave us, we have the Shonen Jump cover, and we go down a little bit further. We have what I would consider to be the One Piece classy baddie uh, spread. I mean, Oda knows his target audience. I'll say that. Even before we get into the chapter and all the important stuff, Oda definitely knows his target audience. This is great. We got, I guess from left to right, we got Robin, Uta, Nami, Tashigi, Reiju, who's it's peak, and then Boa Hancock, of course, all being classy, maybe I guess with the exception of Reiju. She's the only one that isn't wearing a type of red, and I find that interesting. I don't know. Obviously, her thing is poison pink, but she's not even wearing pink. She's wearing violet. Speaking of which, it would be really cool if we got Violet here, but we can't put all the One Piece baddies here. She is classy though. Violet is classy. So I'm not entirely sure why she's not here or why all these women specifically are here. Nevertheless, great spread. This might be one of the best things Oda's ever done for cover art recently, or character spreads, because this wins. Anyway, enough of me horny posting. Moving on to the chapter itself. We pick up right where we pretty much exactly where we left off last chapter, with Karibo essentially begging and pleading to join to join Blackbeard's crew with Van Auger and Katarina Devon. And he's essentially saying, which is what I thought he would say last chapter, which I said in my last review, which is, if you kill me, right, like I have information that I want to give to Blackbeard, right? So we know now that Blackbeard is a pirate that Caribou has been dying to give information to, and specifically the information that he has, that we know, right? And the only people that know this are, well, he knows about Poseidon, so he knows about Shirahoshi. So obviously the fishman royalty, they know about that. The Straw Hats know about that, and he knows about it. And he also knows where Pluton is. The only two crews that know where Pluton is outside of the people in Wano are the Straw Hat crew and Law's crew. And Law, obviously we know Law's not dead, but if this were any other series, Law would be dead. So effectively, it's a Straw Hat crew, right? So now I don't think Karibo knows that Law knows, but again, like I said, if this were any other story, Law would be dead and it wouldn't matter anyway. So obviously he doesn't tell them, because I mean, if he just told them, they would just take the information and kill him probably. So I'm assuming, we don't get to see it here, but I'm assuming they agreed to take him back. And once this arc wraps up, Oda usually likes to do what's going on in the world kind of thing at the end of an arc, and we might get to see Blackbeard getting that kind of information and possibly even acting on it. And so I think that's going to be very, very interesting to see in the near future, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. Cutting back to what's actually happening on Egghead in terms of the fight, though, we see, obviously, remember the pacifista had turned. Dr. Vegapunk had given that final order to Kuma that if essentially the Kuma model pacifista were ever to turn on Bonnie specifically, that they would instead turn and defend her. So it's kind of like a double cross almost. So again, I thought that was interesting, but we're getting to see, I guess, the payoff with that. And so we get to see different vice admirals that, quite frankly, in the grand scheme of things, are more or less useless with the exception, I believe, of Vice Admiral Doberman. But they're reacting to that. We do get a really, really cool scene um, where we get to see who I believe is Vice Admiral Tosa. And he's about to crush what looks like um, Jewelry Bonnie and Frankie, right? And he's saying that my 10-finger barrel gun can even rip open armor. And this is why there's levels to this, right? Because is that a feat that's impressive in one at this stage in One Piece anymore? My uh my 10-finger barrel gun, or 10-barrel finger gun. It looks like he's about to do a Kamehameha anyway. Um, can rip open armor. Is that a feat? And is this guy stronger than Frankie? I mean, maybe. But, I mean, I'm not really impressed. Anyway, I will say that panel with him looking like he's about to crunch. There you go, Tosa Crunch. Frankie and Joey Bonnie. That actually does go hard. I do have to admit that it definitely does go hard. However, that's about it. The explanation of, if honestly, if they just left out the I could rip armor open, this would be such a cooler scene. But the fact that he's like, it can even rip armor open, it's like, okay, dude, you and literally every mid-tier character in this entire series. So moving on. Anyway, we get what I thought was going to be a cool scene, and Oda immediately cuts attention, and I think possibly the funniest way he could, which is just him getting one shot, absolutely irrelevant. And I guess that kind of goes to the point, right? Like, if you think I can even rip open armor is like your standard of strength, one, it speaks to just how weak you really are, A, and B, it also speaks to how low the Marine standards are as for what qualifies as a Vice Admiral, which is why I said there really are levels to this. Which means anyone under Vice Admiral is literal like fodder. I mean, like pre-time skip Sanji. And I mean, obviously pre-time skip Sanji, I wouldn't even say is necessarily fun. Yeah, but yeah, pre-time skip Sanji should probably wipe the floor with all of these people. In fact, maybe if you're not Vice Admiral level, I would say pre-time skip Frankie, because the Vice Admiral level is so low that oh my gosh. I mean, I'm gonna stop talking about this and I'm just gonna move on. Anyway, we essentially get to see that they've been saved by Dory and Bragi, and they're saying, "Hey, we're here to help the Straw Hats. We're trying to find out who we don't know everyone that's on the crew now." And we get to see that interaction where they get saved, and it's great. And they're gonna take them back to the crew so that everyone can get reunited. Great. Cut back to, again, it's good that Oda's fleshing the story out with these Vice Admirals, but in the grand scheme of things, I believe they're fodder. Now, the only thing that was really cool to come out of this, I believe, was that Doll, Doll's in her 40s, I would assume. Assuming that she joined the Marines at 18, she's at least 38. So, looking good for at least 38. I mean, looking good in general. Not saying that 38-year-old women don't look great, but Doll looks like she's 25. So, yeah, it turns out that Doll was under the command of Saul. So I wonder what her philosophy is like, and how she actually views the world. Because obviously we know Saul had the will of D. I don't know if he knew what that meant, but I'm sure there must be some. He must have had some idea, and I would imagine that it shaped his philosophy somewhat. And maybe that got passed on to Doll. So I'm very, very interested. And obviously she knows about Sword too, so maybe she's gone down that path as well. So I'm very interested to see if we get her character fleshed out, what that actually looks like. Be that as it may, we come back to the actual important stuff. And yeah, Saint J. Garcia Saturn just actually looks like the devil. Like, there's just, like, if you had to pick out what you think the devil would look like, it would be this. And this is why I think that Emu is beautiful. Like, Emu's going to be the complete opposite. Like, Emu's going to look like almost like a cult of personality. Like, people would fall for him. If you don't know my theory on what Emu is, he's a Katsuro Otoko, I believe. I made an entire video on this. I think it's called Gorosei Powers Revealed or something like that, where I basically talk about what they could possibly be and what their powers are based off of and all that good stuff. So if you're interested, go check that out. I'm going to keep shilling that video, by the way, because I put a lot of effort into it and I think it's great. And I don't think anyone's ever talking about the Gorosei powers the way I have, of course. Anyway, we get to see that, yeah, he's given up on the whole human stuff. Like, he's not going to pretend to be human anymore. And Luffy and Sanji are essentially Luffy's getting ready to take a stand. He tells Sanji, hey, take Vegapunk and bounce, because he's about to die, and my job was to get him off the island, and I want to do that. Now, we also get to learn that Saint J. Garcia Saturn's powers are also venom based, right? So those little spider legs, those, I guess, talons or nails, they are coated with poison. So he punctures a tree, and obviously it breaks through the tree, which I think it would have done anyway, just through force. But it also burns it with venom. So I think that's obviously an interesting part. I don't think that will necessarily affect Luffy. He's attacking Luffy, and I don't know if he's trying to attack Sanji. Luffy's clearly having no issue dodging those two. Like, he's having a whale of a time. I guess he's not getting hit at all, which is why right as Sanji's about to get away, I guess he completely misreads the situation. Either that or he wasn't using observation haki or whatever. But Vegapunk gets aced. Jesus. It can't be too soon. It's been over 10 years. Yeah, he gets aced. And if there's any hope of Vegapunk surviving, which I was really hoping there wasn't, it honestly, they should have killed him. But I know they're probably going to go for some scene where he, like... Well, let's get to it. It's at the end of the chapter anyway. But yeah, he gets aced. I mean, he gets put right through. This pretty much guarantees that Vegapunk is dying at the end of this arc. Which, again, I'm happy for, because as One Piece ends, we need actual stakes. We need characters that we've either known about for a long time or has been hyped up, or we have some emotional connection to die. Because Odetsu and Wano sucked. So, and I think Oda knows that. And I think he knows that people don't necessarily take deaths in One Piece seriously, so I think that's something that he's working on. And I know he doesn't like to kill characters, but we need stakes for the end of the story. So it is what it is. Anyway, Vegapunk is yeah, so he's done. And of course, to end out the chapter, we get what I can only call just a killer scene of Luffy grabbing onto Kizaru with... I don't really know how Gear 5th works with haki, because obviously if you'd imagine if Kizaru could get out of this hole, he would just do it. So I'm assuming Luffy's using some kind of armament haki here. Maybe just Ryu, the advanced armament haki with no form of hardening. That's totally fine. We've seen that in the story before. But to essentially pay him back for what he did to Vegapunk, he's grabbed onto him, and he's grabbed on to the face. He's kind of like he's palming Saint J. Garcia. He's like, there's no way I'm letting y'all escape. And I I like this because this is the establishment of Yonko Luffy. And I think we needed that in One Piece. And I'm very, very happy that we got it. And I know, I don't remember who was it. It was another YouTuber. I believe it was Mr. Morge actually, who I didn't watch the video, I just saw the thumbnail, where he basically made a set of questions like, can we actually get some kind of tension? Is there actually going to be any thematic tension out of Gear 5? And I believe that if we're going to see something like that, this will be the moment, because Luffy looks very serious. Obviously, he goes back to smiling. But I think we can get tension out of Gear 5. And that was my biggest concern. So if we can actually see that being executed very well, I'm just going to love Gear 5 even more. Great. And then to end the chapter, because before, I mean, like, I'm reading this, I'm like, this is obviously a short chapter, but before I'm reading this, I'm like, okay, this is great. And then, that he's getting ready to drop the heat. And I'm so glad there's no break next week. I'm just going to read this verbatim. We got the ringing of the Den Den Mushi, which was my ringtone for a while, actually. We got the gotcha. Mic check. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Attention world. Hello there. This is Dr. Vegapunk, the world's greatest scientist and most humble scientific genius. The irony on that's not lost on me. I'm sure this message will come as a shock to you all, but please bear with me. What I'm about to tell you is the truth about our world. End of chapter. No break next week. Oda's cooking, and I love it. I think this is great. This makes me so happy because we finally get to learn. Like, I've been following One Piece consistently since 2017. Got up to date with the anime in 2018. In like the summer of 2018, got up to date with the manga in the winter of 2018. And I've been following pretty much weekly ever since. I think the only time I ever missed reading a chapter was like 2 weeks ago. And I mean, God bless if people have been reading this longer than I've been alive, but this, it finally feels like One Piece is ending, and obviously that's bittersweet, but we finally it looks like we're about to get answers to some of the questions. Now, Oda could pull an Oda essentially and just fuck off from the scene and not come back to it. I don't think that that's gonna happen. I did say that I thought One Piece was gonna end. I thought that this arc was gonna end in maybe the next 5 to 7 chapters. Depending on how this whole truth about our world goes, probably gonna be a flashback. If it's a flashback, forget that. Depending on how in-depth Oda wants to go, I could easily see this arc lasting another 15 to 20 chapters, what with the flashback and the resolution to this story, ultimately with the defeat of Saint Garcia Saturn. Now, I don't know if Garcia Saturn dies here. I did make a video, or say this in a video, that I thought he would. If he doesn't die here, he might get the Vegeta Nappa treatment, where he survives and then Imu just kills him for being weak. I don't know. That might be possible. But all in all, that end, that cliffhanger, took this chapter from being an 8.5 to like a 9.5. I mean, we're an 8 to a 9.5. This chapter is phenomenal. We're finally getting payoff to, again, over 24 years of build-up, 25 years of build-up. It's finally coming around. So, like I said, all in all, great chapter. I love One Piece. Looking forward to chapter 1109. It's going to be great. But that's all we have. So until next time, I'm your host, Dan Stone, reminding you to keep your claws sharp and stay in the hunt. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.